The main character of our story, Jason, is an ordinary 18-year-old who is just hanging out in video chatting with his friend, the guy who hooks him up with some illegal substances. His friend asks if he can accept the delivery at his house. Jason nods in agreement with his adolescent carelessness. Cut to his father, John Matthews, the devoted owner of a construction company. He sees Daniel, one of his employees, heaving cement sacks into a car after a tiring workday. He rolls up his sleeves and gets to work helping Daniel with the load, for which Daniel is grateful. A messenger shows up at Jason's door in the interim. When he rips it open, he discovers a camera and a stash of drugs. He realizes he's walked straight into a police trap when he sees the camera. Fearful, Jason makes a crazy run, but the police are following closely behind him and eventually capture him. John is currently enjoying a social gathering while away from home when his phone buzzes. It's his ex-wife, Sylvie Collins, and she has news that makes him very uncomfortable. Jason, their son, was arrested for drug trafficking. Running to the police station, John first meets his lawyer, Jay Price, then his ex. Jay explains everything to them. Jason wasn't a dealer. Rather, his purported friend set him up in a sting to lessen the severity of his own punishment. Jason faces charges that could result in a minimum of 10 years in prison. Convincing Jason to act as bait and assist in catching bigger fish in the drug-dealing pond is the only way out. John is desperate, riding a wave of guilt and fearing for his son's life. He makes an effort to convince his attorney, Jay, that Jason is just a regular young man who got involved with the wrong crowd. However, Jay makes him aware of the harsh reality. Jason's best chance of getting a lighter sentence is to assist the police in apprehending more drug dealers, as he was caught red-handed with a substantial amount of drugs. Jason finds himself brought before the court as the wheels of justice turn swiftly. The judge moves up the date of his trial but mandates that he remain in jail until then. Jason is met by John, Sylvie, and Jay, who lay out his options. They attempt to persuade him to assist in eliminating more drug dealers in order to shorten his prison sentence. However, Jason insists he has no idea who any of the big names in the drug trade are. He only knows petty criminals who do it for fun, and if he exposes them, he's essentially ruining their lives just as he would his own. John is left feeling more anxious than before as he leaves the room, the tension wearing him down day by day. By using his connections, John is able to arrange several meetings with the local U.S. Attorney Joanne Keegan, who is actively promoting her congressional candidacy by fighting drugs. He tells her everything, including the specifics of his son's situation. John makes a sincere request, but Joanne dismisses him outright. She claims that Jason was apprehended with a sizable stash. John, looking sad, leaves her office and heads to the prison to see Jason. A chill runs down his spine at what he sees. Jason's physical state was deteriorating, and his face was marred by cuts and bruises from a beating in prison. Jason breaks down into tears as he remembers his early years spent with his father. He admits that he doesn't think he could survive 10 years in such a harsh environment where beatings seem inevitable. John is devastated to see his son in such a state. John, troubled by the visit, makes a detour into the underworld of the city, where drugs are traded in dimly lit corners. He devises a bold plan to find some dealers himself and turn them over to the police, but the dealers give him a severe beating and his plan backfires because it is obvious what his intentions are. The police arrive to save him at the last minute. Joanne Keegan confronts John after learning of his reckless mission, making it clear that Jason's case would not have been impacted even if he had succeeded in capturing someone. John begs for a way to reduce his son's sentence out of desperation. Joanne tells him there's only one way to save his son, finally showing him some hope. Joanne places the gauntlet down. John should refer to her as a prominent dealer who possesses a minimum of 1 kilogram of the hard substance. Then and only then can they think about letting Jason go. John is adamant, even though it won't be easy to apprehend a major drug lord. He tells her that there may be leads that could be helpful among his construction crew, which consists of a motley mix of ex-cons and sober addicts. Joanne reluctantly consents to reduce Jason's sentence in exchange for John being able to bring in a dealer. It's evident, though, that she won't be providing much assistance, and he bears the full risk. While going through his staff files, John finds Daniel James. Having previously engaged in drug use and accrued 2 distribution charges, Daniel is currently attempting to maintain sobriety and steer clear of a 3rd offense while tending to his wife and young son. As Daniel is finishing up for the day, John comes across him and offers to give him a ride home. They take a detour to a cafe where John brings up the subject over a cup of coffee. He makes up a story about wanting to dabble in the drug trade and asks Daniel to introduce him to a big dealer so he could enter their ranks. Daniel was surprised by John's proposal because he thought he was just a sincere, hard-working man. He is adamant that he is over the drug world and is making every effort to remove all traces of it from his life. He can't help John. He's already served 2 prison terms and longs for a fresh start. John raises the stakes by offering Daniel $5,000 in exchange for introducing him to a powerful figure in the drug trade. Daniel refuses to take the chance of going on a 3rd prison tour. John assures him that it's only an introduction and raises his offer to a whopping $20,000. After initially turning to leave, Daniel changes his mind when considering a safer place for his son to live. He's not aware that he's supporting an informant. Daniel acts as a mediator between John and Malik, a strong local drug lord who has also had 2 strikes against him. Given the status of the economy, the fact that his company is barely making ends meet, and his willingness to smuggle an almost infinite supply of drugs, John makes his case. Being a legitimate part of the company, his fleet of freight trucks would avoid suspicion and carry too much cargo to be thoroughly searched. Malik concurs, but only on the condition that John and Daniel have to drive on the first run. As they prepared for the operation, John and Agent Cooper installed a network of wiretaps with the goal of recording all of the illegal transactions that took place. John and Daniel get on the road and head toward El Paso, which is only a short distance from the border, the unremarkable junkyard where they met. They are questioned about their smuggling strategies as they meet the drug dealers. John discloses his scheme to conceal the drugs within cement sacks. As soon as they start working, the peaceful junkyard turns into a battlefield, as the rival gang Baja Norte has ambushed them. John and Daniel rush to cover as bullets fly, spotting a possible escape route. Back in their truck, they leap. John accelerates, gutting it out of there while the rival gangs continue their intense gunfight. They crash through scrapyard piles, break through the front gate, and collide with multiple parked cars, one of which is hiding an undercover police officer. John and Daniel daringly escape with their truck full of contraband against all odds. As Borde advances through the cartel ranks, he eventually reaches Juan Carlos Pintera, the powerful man. He compliments John's actions to Malik, impressed by his bravery and daring escape. Within the cartel ranks, John is becoming more respected. Late at night, John and Daniel return to John's factory with the contraband safely in their possession and the mission accomplished. Under the cover of darkness, they swap cars in an attempt to dispel any possible stories. John tells Daniel he's going to the bathroom for a little while to relieve himself, but Daniel finds him stooped over a phone in the office. Daniel feels suspicious right away. Daniel draws a gun and confronts John, calling him a traitor. He questions John about a wire, his anxious thoughts racing. John assures Daniel that he was just giving his wife a call while pleading his innocence. Though doubtful and lacking any proof of dishonesty, Daniel releases John. Agent Cooper follows them at a safe distance, keeping his eyes fixed on their every move as they get back on the road. Once they reach their destination, John gives Malik the drugs while being closely watched by Agent Cooper. Malik casually brings up an impending meeting with some powerful cartel figures, which presents a chance for a larger catch. Cooper sees the opportunity and decides not to arrest Malik right away, keeping the transaction under wraps. The next day, Joanne Keegan is reminded of their agreement by an enraged John. As the go-between, Hooper intervenes and suggests that the failed arrest might have been made with the intention of apprehending the cartel's more powerful members. John makes the decision to visit his son Jason later at work. He sees his ex-wife Sylvie nervously waiting in the visitor's room, not realizing Daniel is quietly following him. She informs him that they won't be able to see Jason for at least 2 days, and that he is in the infirmary with 36 stitches. As John leaves the jail, an enraged Daniel greets him and asks to know who he is seeing. Confronted, John tells Daniel the truth. Daniel becomes irrationally angry after learning this. He alerts John to the dire consequences. If they found out, the ruthless cartel would kill them and their families without hesitation. Upon returning home, John finds his wife inconsolable and Malik idly lounging by the swimming pool. Malik is aware that the cartel is seeking a meeting. When they get to the designated location, Malik is told to wait outside. John enters the meeting nervously and alone, watched closely by the intimidating security of the cartel. When John finds himself facing Juan Carlos Pintera, there is an air of danger in the room. Pintera, in a chillingly composed manner, sets down a daunting task for John: to transport almost $100 million of the cartel's drug earnings back across the border to Mexico. Armed with this newfound knowledge, John quickly tells Keegan and Cooper about the plan. Keegan is clearly excited about Pintera's arrest and the potential fallout for the cartel as a whole, but Cooper, ever the cautious one, worries about John's safety because he believes the cartel intends to kill John after he has served his purpose. John is adamant.
Do you want to earn $2,400 a week by making YouTube work for you 100%?
About his condition. Jason's prompt release after the assignment is finished. Despite his initial reluctance, Keegan accepts his terms. John visits Daniel at home and lays out the whole extent of their precarious situation, having plotted his course. Together, they come up with a bold plan that would free them from the oppressive government and the vicious cartel. John makes a cunning maneuver as he sets out on the mission, switching trucks and avoiding Cooper's observation on the first truck. When John gets to the location where the cash is picked up, a cartel escort follows him. Daniel embarks on a perilous endeavor of his own. He breaks into Malik's house, confronting and subduing his guards. In the ensuing altercation, Malik sustains serious injuries. As death draws near, Malik gives Daniel a piece of information that could change everything: Pintera's cell phone number. A single call now determined their fates. John calls Cooper after getting Pintera's number out of his pocket. By asking Cooper to track down his new phone and Pintera's number, he is effectively handling the kingpin and the enormous drug haul a piece of cake. Jason, John's son, is soon discovered by the cartel to be an informant and to be imprisoned in secret. Crazy mayhem breaks out in a high-stakes highway chase. John holds his shotgun tightly and fires back at his assailants as bulls fly past his truck. A bullet burrows into his leg in the fierce crossfire, but he struggles against the wave of agony. Abruptly, he spots the car of another attacker. He shoots into it, sending it flying off the highway, swerving his truck. Cooper is drawing nearer to Pintera at the same moment. When the DEA raids Pintera's home, they discover it is unoccupied. Pintera is already on his way out. Cooper casts a quick glance at a passing vehicle. Pintera is attempting to elude detection. Cooper and his group move fast, encircling and blocking Pintera's vehicle. The kingpin gives up after realizing it would be pointless to fight, especially with his small son at his side. John is still being pursued by the cartel members as they return to the highway. Even after they succeed in shooting out his tires, John does not let up. When a second attacker tries to kill him, John strikes back, smashing his truck into the assailant's car and setting off a huge explosion. He eventually loses control and rolls his truck as a result of his tires blowing out. He is stunned and trapped when he sees someone running toward him. He tries to reload his gun, fearing the worst, but when he sees the figure, his fear becomes relief. This is a DEA agent stepping in to help him. There's a wave of relief at daybreak the following day. After Jason's release from prison, the Witness Protection Program is promptly enrolled for John's family. Daniel, though, takes a different course of action.